Hi, my name is Hannah Jane Pritchett, current U of A GIST Master's student. Welcome to the University of Arizona GIST podcast. Our host is Chris Lukenbiel, and today he will be chatting with Smaran Harihar, a senior engineer for Esri and alumni of the MSGIST program. Let's get started.
Hello, my name is Chris Lukenbiel, and I'm the director of the GIST programs here at the University of Arizona. And with us today for our podcast is Smaran Harihar, and he's a senior engineer for Esri and also an alumni from the MSGIST program from 2012. Nice to have you on the program today, Smaran.
Happy to be here, Chris. It was quite a fun ride, the 2012 MSGIST program. So I'm just glad that we are able to reconnect now.
Well, you were in the 2012 class. That was back when we had the fast-paced one-year degree program.
Yes.
And so you started in January and ended in December. And then you fairly quickly went on to work with Esri, didn't you?
Yeah.
How did that process work between graduation and interview and get to you're at Redlands, I'm assuming?
Yes, Redlands. I would actually attribute the fact that the reason for my employment speeding up was thanks to you, because we had this user conference student assistantship program during the summer.
Yes.
And you basically recommended me to the Esri staff, and I was able to reach out to the Esri HR at the convention center itself, and we kind of had this really quick HR round right next to all the stalls sitting over there itself. And after that, it was pretty quickly moved on to the technical round. And I think in November is when I received the letter of approval from Esri itself. So I think the fact that I was actually able to work on Esri's JS API program while doing the course, so I had my master's project for the master's GIST project, which was built on the JavaScript API, ArcGIS JavaScript API. That definitely helped me a lot. Right? And it was at that time JavaScript API was up and coming. There were other APIs that were there, but they were being phased out. So I guess I was at like the right time, right place, doing the right thing. And thankfully everything just clicked. And that's one of the reasons why I had the offer in hand in November. And then after the December graduation, I started at Esri in February.
Quick. Yeah, that's a very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
And you went right into the development engineering team? Was that?
Yeah. So I was a software developer when I started off at Esri in the location analytics department.
Okay.
The team was basically focused on non-GIS users, basically. So the concept was that GIS is kind of saturated out all the GIS-centric fields like utilities and petroleum exploration and things like that. Those folks were pretty GIS-centric. They definitely understood what GIS could do for them. But a lot of non-GIS users, basically, customers like Nike and Starbucks, who didn't really understand what GIS could do for them. And they didn't want to get into the GIS technology as such, but they wanted GIS to be in the back end doing all the work for them. And they just wanted to just click a few buttons and get the result that they needed. And that's basically what the team was focused on.
So you would have large clients and very specific needs that they would make requests for the development?
Yeah. So like the team that I started off with was Maps for Office, which was basically providing GIS capability in Excel and PowerPoint itself. So the whole concept was you already have a BI system, which is business intelligence system. So whether it is Excel or PowerPoint or SharePoint, Salesforce, among others. Um, the client is already well versed and used to using their own software, uh, and they want to make use of the GIS capabilities, but they don't want to learn this whole new facet of technology and hire new people and train them and all that stuff. So we basically provided them with the capability of having a map in their BI system itself. So you could literally add a map to your Excel sheet, just get the data that you already have in your Excel sheet. So let's say, all the data generally have some kind of a location component to it, whether it's coordinates, whether it's US cities or states or any kind of geographical component. And we would just use that, get the data into a map, and you have a layer on the map right away in Excel itself. So that simplifies a lot of things, especially in terms of visualization. And visualization is really very impactful when it comes to making decisions.
Yeah, I know personal use. I have used the plugin with Adobe Illustrator and for
Right.
where it's like I want to focus on cartography and visualization,
right.
But I need a little bit of a back end of GIS, but don't give me the big hammer, just give me the little tools, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Works nice. I'm just kind of curious because I saw some of the Outlook or the Office or Esri for Office. How popular was that? Is that something that's still out and used by specific segments?
Oh, yeah. So it is especially very famous among clients who are very comfortable with using Excel. Like Excel is still the biggest BI system that is out there. Like even though Excel is not really a database, everybody uses it as a database. So they don't want to leave that, and they have a lot of models that they have designed using their VB macros back in the days, and they still run in their Excel environment, and things are already automated, and they don't really want to change that. So we're basically providing them with all those capabilities in their environment itself. Quite a few clients still wish to use Excel, including some in the the government agencies. And the beauty is that we provide them with the ability to use ArcGIS Online and also have enterprise ArcGIS Enterprise, that is the on-premise portals that a lot of especially government agencies prefer, because they can have a disconnected environment kind of a situation where you might be in a bunker somewhere and you can have your own server that is disconnected from internet, and you're just using your intranet environment, and you just open up an Excel, and I don't know what you would be using Excel for in a bunker, but it's there.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious about when you came to the University of Arizona, you already had a bachelor's in engineering.
And yes.
You came with, I would say, more programming skills than most students in the master's
right
that we're familiar with. And so I'm kind of curious on your perspective on, for me, when I tell students that are graduating or just hitting the market, that traditionally the advice would be there's two types of market. There's an analyst market, problem solving,
right,
and there's more the developer market that
right.
and you need. And don't, if you're not into programming, that's fine. There's a market that your skills are useful.
Yeah.
But you really took to the developer market, and I'm just kind of curious on your experience of how well did your educational background help you get into this type of career today?
So, So when I actually did my not my master's, but I did my engineering in electronics and telecom. So completely disconnected from GIS, had no reference to GIS when I graduated, completed my undergraduation. But then because of my electronics and telecom background, I started working for a telecom company in India, which had a GIS department. And they were basically, using Esri software, and there were a few others for literally mapping each of their telecom assets. So like the towers and the optic fiber cables that they had. And that really fascinated me because so the company that I worked for was called Reliance Communication. Now it has been bought out and owned by a different group. But the thing that fascinated me was there was this guy, the visionary who founded that company, and back in 2000 was when he envisioned that the future of optic fiber is going to be, a big thing. And they literally laid out so many optic fiber cables across the big metropolitan areas in India. And when I started working in 2010, which was 10 years afterwards, and he passed away in 2001 or 2002. But the efforts that he took to put in those optic fibers were basically what were, providing all the profits now, 10 years down the road. And I could literally see like, this is the city where you have like 10 optic fiber bundles that are there, but only 2 of them are being used, and they have like future plan of how they will be expanding so that they still have 8 additional optic fibers that can be leased out. And all that was like at the click of a button. And I am like completely in a different building and a different city altogether, and everything was documented. You could literally view it. And not only that, it was so powerful that it is pretty a common scenario that there's some kind of a redevelopment going on or a road construction that is going on, and optic fibers get cut, or there's some kind of disconnection that happens, and instantly you got that ticket that this particular location, the fiber has been cut, there is no connection over there. And we could literally pinpoint the location to the technician or whoever is closest to that location, and they would instantly go and fix it. So it was like not just about mapping things, but also providing better service and timely, prompt service. So all that literally fascinated me, and that's when I basically got into this. Initially started off as a QA engineer, quality assurance engineer over there.
Gotcha.
And then found out that, hey, you can actually build stuff like write models and write websites. And that's where I started off with VB.NET and C#. And then I kind of started to see the future of JavaScript API. And that's why I was absolutely fascinated that when I joined the my master's program, I was completely focused on that. Yes, I have to have a project where I am working on JS API. And I remember there was a guy, I don't remember where he was working. He was working with the a different department in U of A, Matt Rohr.
Yes, Matt Rohr is the head of technology for the College of Agriculture at the University.
Nice. So at that time, I remember I went to a demo of his, and he had written that in Silverlight. And when I saw that demo, I kind of understood all the shortcomings that were for that particular API. Obviously, Silverlight was later phased out. And that kind of just reinforced my belief that, JS API is the future, and I have to kind of have a project that helps me build my understanding and knowledge about JS API, and definitely that helped in making me employable.
Well, and I was just looking it up while you're talking, and you can still find your abstract for your master's project online.
Oh, yeah.
Arizona.edu. And you did. You had a JavaScript API project that you worked on. That was one of the larger ones that we did at the time, where you worked as a group for a professor, an economic geographer, right?
Yes. Yeah, I worked with Yanain and under guidance from Sandy DeLarba. And he had this fascinating tool that basically what we used as the Python model that would literally, and like now it is pretty obvious and everybody understands, climate change and the effects on farming and agriculture. But back then, he already had an economic spatial model that would literally provide you with the information of the amount of temperature. If it goes up, how much in dollar value the farming or the agriculture in each individual state would be affected by that, which was really amazing. And obviously what I kind of dealt with designing the application and connecting it with his model. And Yunain created the Python model using Sandy's algorithms. But the whole thing, when it came together, it was really fascinating. Now when I look back, it's like, we kind of had a working model that showed in dollar value how dangerous it was, how dangerous climate change is. And that was quite an accomplishment. I would definitely agree.
So it was kind of like you had the training in the background. The master's program helped to take some of those previous skills and give you the new geographic skills to combine with them. But by staying true to your programming, it helped you move into the career that you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I did not have an experience with the JavaScript API when I joined the program, but during the program I picked it up. So I had the fundamentals, but I did need to do the the learning process of learning this whole new API and language. But yeah, definitely it was fun for sure.
Oh, that's great. So what are some of the current projects that you're doing right now with Esri?
So one of the things that we're doing, I'm still on the Maps for Office team, and we are kind of upgrading. One of the key things that we're doing is upgrading it to the JavaScript API 4 version. That is the new JavaScript API, which provides you with much better performance, 3D capabilities, all these new enhancements. Which were lacking in the previous version, and that is currently the big project that I'm on.
Oh, cool. And I guess I'm kind of curious on, for people that haven't gotten jobs in the GIS industry and in development as a GIS developer, like what does your day-to-day kind of like work look like? Do you get to just do that one project, or do you have a couple that you have to negotiate with? Do you have some training that comes along with the day-to-day? Like what does Smaran's day look like at Esri?
Well, right now, because we are in the middle of the milestones and project, since things have already been laid out and we have already finalized most of the roadmap, it is mostly going through each of the issues that we have. Making sure that we're meeting the deadlines, making sure that we are hitting the milestones as we need to. Most of my day goes into programming, basically. So either I'm programming myself or I'm helping somebody iron out their issues, or I'm code reviewing, which is basically making sure that whatever code has been put in is the right code and there's nothing misplaced in there. Other than that, I would say it's mostly research work. So understanding where the performance lag is, understanding if there's a better way of handling what has already been either implemented or something new that needs to be implemented, where the gaps are. I'm not really a manager, but I kind of have small duty of making sure that I provide weekly status of 2 or 3 other developers that might be working under me to my manager. But yeah, that's basically my entire day.
What programming languages do you mainly work in?
So fundamentally, it is still JavaScript, but kind of it's like JavaScript with performance add-ons. So things like now I write code in TypeScript, which is a better version of JavaScript, kind of provides you with typing capability, and working on a JavaScript framework which is called Angular. And then you have like the building tools, which kind of compiles and makes sure that the size of the project is as small as possible so that it's not heavy when it's deployed. And all that is done using Webpack. And obviously for GIS tech, it's mostly JavaScript API when I'm writing the code. But then other than that, communication is all over the place. So using ArcGIS servers, whether it's ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. So yeah, that would be the entire tech stack.
So other than or including programming, like I'm thinking, what kind of GIS skills do you still have to rely on, in your career that we would
Right.
see in classes back in the MSGIST, or
Yeah.
is it more that you are just into the program? Do you get to see your code in the information system itself?
Right. So I suppose the heavy lifting of the GIS related stuff is kind of handled by the ArcGIS JavaScript API itself. So they kind of provide the mapping capability, the layers, all kinds of layers that needs to be supported, the spatial analysis that needs to be done, and I'm basically connecting the application with the API uh, to make it work with all the GIS capabilities that are provided. Um, Other than that, I believe there was a lot of work that I did in the GIST program where there was the ArcGIS map, ArcGIS desktop that was used for going through different spatial analysis. Um, Now most of that so I haven't worked on ArcGIS desktop since I joined Esri because that's a different team, and
Yeah.
but they have actually phased that out. So now it is kind of ArcGIS Pro, which is kind of the new face of ArcGIS desktop, and basically ArcGIS Pro is kind of like this taking things to the cloud.
Yes.
So ArcGIS Online is everywhere. So running those spatial analysis is something that I don't do. It is something where we already have the services. So basically we have whether it's geocoding, whether it is running network analyst, where you're doing the drive time and radius buffers and all those things. So those are all basically services that we hook into to run the GIS queries. So most of my application is kind of serializing all that information that is needed by these services from the user. And that's why the user just gets to click a few buttons and they see the output directly without having to worry about all the GIS stuff that is going on behind the scenes.
So in this ever-changing field of technology that you've decided to have a career in, as well as myself,
right.
Like, what are you keeping an eye on right now in terms of trends and things that you need to be aware of in the future, or people that wanting to get into this area for their career?
Right.
What's the big things that you're kind of watching over right now and watching how
one of the things that I've done is like I don't have a computer science background, so I kind of did electronics telecom, then I went into GIS, and I basically just fell in love with programming. And that's basically, it's mostly been self-learned and through projects. So the core of my computer science was something that I still didn't have. Like I didn't have an academic background in there. And that was one of the things that I've focused on to strengthen it more, to understand the fundamentals more. That, because exactly as you said, the ever-changing world, there's like new technology every other month, rather like previously it was a year, now it is just months. Every month there's something different that is coming out. And one thing that I was or I wanted to focus on was to understand the fundamentals of computer science, because turns out that is where everything originates from. So that helped me in strengthening my understanding and not worrying about, hey, okay, so now I'm learning JavaScript. Oh, now there's TypeScript. Oh, now there's this Angular framework, and apparently now there's this new famous JavaScript framework called React, where everybody's moving into. So as long as the fundamentals are solid, you kind of then start to connect. Oh, okay, so this is why we needed this new kind of language or this new kind of framework, and what it is providing additionally on top of what was already available. So I would say right now, I think what I would be looking forward to is the ability to understand the direction the market is taking. So it seems like everything is going to cloud, right? That is kind of the fundamentals. Uh, uh, People are driving more and more of their business into the cloud. There was a time when people used to feel that, hey, we cannot part with our data, right? There are privacy issues and things like that. And now then they have created these federated clouds where you will be given a piece of the cloud. So that is like just you. It is in the cloud. You can access it from any device, but only you will be able to access it. It isn't something that anybody else can try and get in and retrieve your data or anything like that. So accessibility is definitely something that is becoming more and more a future trend. How easily can you get the data? How easily can you understand the data that you have? And the restrictions, the walls are being coming down. The more easier it is for you to get hold of your data, understand your data, analyze your data, which is basically all GIS, uh, and how well you can do that from the context of your home or your office or even the device. So whether it's mobile or whether it is a desktop or a laptop. I think that is one of the directions that things are moving into. Um, I definitely feel that GIS is kind of becoming more and more mainstream. Like I remember when I joined, even in 2012, like a lot of people didn't know what GIS was. Uh, I think even now people don't really understand GIS per se, but they do recognize the power of map, like what mapping can do.
Yes.
And the reason I say this is because even the big techs are now getting into it with force, whether it's the Apple Maps, or even now there's this Microsoft's Azure Maps that is coming out. So more and more folks are getting involved, and GIS is kind of becoming more relevant now. I would say rather 10 years back, where it was still taking off. Now it has kind of become like you have to have a division, a GIS division somewhere in your company, however small, however big, but you cannot just be a company without really anything related to GIS. You can't be just like, oh, my store has to do with selling coffee. I cannot have any GIS division. I don't need a GIS division, but turns out, well, how do you know where you want to open your next store? How would you decide who your client is? Where are they, your demographics? Um, um, do you think that demographics will provide you with the profits that you're looking for? Like all this needs to be done using mapping capabilities. And you do need to have either outsource to a GIS company or have a GIS team that can help you walk through it.
Yeah, I was having a discussion about this topic on another podcast, and I was told once, and it's similar to what Jack Dangerman talked about, of thinking of GIS as like a neural network of, it's in the backbone of an information system, whether you want it there or not. And my thing, instead of a decade ago, I'd say over the last 2 decades, the 2000s, one of the biggest changes is I've seen as an educator is we used to say in class that the G makes it unique. And at some point in the last 20 years, it went from the U of unique to ubiquitous. Like it's everywhere. And if you're not going to deal with it, you're going to be left out. And
Yep.
and it might be spatial thinking within an information team, or but there has to be some sort of geographic thinker within a team these
Right.
days to get
Right.
by. And I guess it kind of leads me to the question with you was, it's not as easy to get a start as a GIS developer, I would think, as a GIS analyst. And I'm thinking on myself,
Right.
because the skill levels usually required is a little bit higher. And I was just wanted to ask you is, like, I get new students coming in that, they just see Python for the first time, or Java.
Right.
And they go, I actually like this stuff.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody that's like, I want to be a GIS developer, Smaran? Where do I start?
I mean, you have a lot of options. I guess you need to basically understand what is it that you are interested in. Like in my case, I was interested in making front end. So the website, the application that I would make is something that the user would access, like it would be user facing. And I enjoyed that. So whatever I made, literally whoever is going to take a look at it would actually be able to use it. Just click on buttons and see all the GIS magic happen without having to worry about what exactly is the technology that is causing all this to happen. So that is where JavaScript is. If you're interested in Java, I think Java is something that would be what we call the backend technology. So Java is what you would use to write for ArcGIS Server, which is basically what is used to drive ArcGIS Online. Obviously, ArcGIS Online has the cloud computing aspect to it. You also have the ArcGIS Enterprise, which was previously called as the portal. So that if you're interested in kind of understanding how to scale things and how to make sure that your work is what drives the GIS tech, then definitely I think Java is something that you should be looking into. If you're interested in writing spatial models that would basically create different things. So for example, whether it is geocoding, whether it is you have an algorithm that similar to what Sandy designed, which was literally have an economic spatial component to it, and use that to simply create a Python model that you can plug into an application, and it literally converts your inputs into numeric data values that corresponds to simply increasing the temperature by 0.1 degree and seeing the drop in the dollar value or increase, depending upon which state you're looking at, of the agricultural value to it. So that those models would be written in Python. And now Python is becoming more and more powerful with the ArcGIS now has this ArcPy. I believe that is ArcGIS for Python is what they call, where you can literally write I think 3 or 4 lines of Python code, and you will literally have a map with the layer on it. It's that magical. So it is, the things are becoming much more powerful every single day. So yeah, if you're interested in programming, I think you have a really bright future in GIS for sure.
Oh, that's great. So what do you think is some of the factors or the biggest factor that helped you succeed in your career?
Learning. Constant learning.
Like
No doubt about that.
Because you're a lifelong learner? Is that?
I won't say so. Okay, I would say I am a curious learner. I wouldn't say I'm a lifelong learner. so this is literally what happened. Like when I joined the master's program, right? When I joined the MSGIST program, I was just dead on, like, I have to learn everything. I have to ace whatever is thrown at me. I need to become better and better at whatever I'm learning. And then once I got the job at Esri, I was like, yeah, I made it. That's it. And then, that kind of a mindset puts you on a kind of like a, go with the flow kind of an attitude. And that's not really good. Because even though I knew some of the things, if you're not constantly reading up on them, and Google is your best friend, you will find anything and everything on Google. um, I don't think that learning per se, like, you have to get a certification or things like that. What I mean is, um, be curious. If you find something, for example, just like, let's say, you're opening ArcGIS Maps for Office, right? And you're able to add a map in Excel, just by clicking on some of the sign in button. You get signed in, you click on add map, you add map, and you press two more buttons and you get your layer in your map, which corresponds to your data in your Excel sheet. Just a bit of curiousness as to, okay, how did that data that I have in my Excel sheet become a layer? How can I replicate this? Can I write it myself? So things like just searching that on YouTube, searching it on Google, you have like so many articles. Just those basic things kind of sets you on the path that I have something more to learn. And I mean, I understand you can't do this every single day. I mean, if you can do this every single day, that's fabulous. But having milestones set for yourself is something that enables you to grow, and I think that is critical. Because once I got a job, I was like 2 years in. I was like, yeah, I know JavaScript. I know how to code, but that's not it. You just writing code isn't good enough. You need to have quality code. Whatever you're writing, how can you make it better? And it takes time. Like, at least it did for me. But once you start asking those questions, I think that's basically it. Just try to answer the questions that you're asking yourself. If you're running into some problem and you're seeing that, oh, why is this happening this way, and just write it down, and kind of like in your think again after some days kind of a list, and just Google it and find something. Like, you might have like 10 or 20 questions written. Just go from the first one or the second one, and that growth mentality is something that is absolutely critical, not just for like a developer, but like in life. I think that is something that is very helpful, if you want to have a pattern, growth trajectory, for your career, for your life. And it is tough. I wouldn't say it's easy. It is frustrating, and sometimes it just is like, it would be so much easier if you didn't have to do it. But once you have understood the answer to that problem, it kind of gives you a whole different perspective of things, and um, you kind of get a glimpse of happiness, I would say.
Well, with the idea of a glimpse of happiness, I want to say thank you for joining us today on the podcast, Smaran Harihar. And I would also say that you're very modest, because having known you and being your advisor, I think your level of professionalism and your drive and your kindness, you were a wonderful student to have, that I'm not surprised by your success. But I do agree that the staying curious and wanting to learn is just good to happiness for your life, and enjoy. It helps you to enjoy what you do if you stay curious and want to learn. And yes, you still need to tune out and enjoy the other parts of life when you can. But yeah, it does make a big difference. So thank you for joining us today.
I just wanted to say one more thing, Chris, and this is specifically for you. I got into the Master's GIST program because of you. I sent out an email to like I don't know how many colleges in US when I was trying to find a program for my master's, and you responded every single time with whatever question I had. Uh, you're the reason I got into this program. And not only that, once I joined, I was looking, because uh, uh, as an international student, I wanted to find an on-campus job, and that's a whole different story why that is difficult. But it was because of you. I remember, like, I was frustrated, and this I gave. Uh, I don't remember exactly where I went for an interview or something. And they basically said that no, because, I was an international student, so there are some visa restrictions. And because of that, I couldn't work there. And I was definitely dejected. And I was like, okay, I don't think I'll be able to
Yeah.
get the job. And probably will have to ask my dad to send more money over. And
Oh,
uh,
yeah. It's something.
just for day-to-day thing. And I remember, I don't know why, you being a program director, but you were still so accessible.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh man, he's a program director, I shouldn't bug him, or I cannot approach him, or anything like that. And I don't know how, but I just came to you, and I don't think I cried, but I basically was like, I don't have a job, and I was just dejected. And you just took me to the cafe downstairs, and we just had a sit down, and you helped me calm down. And it was I think I think more than the program is great for sure,
Yeah.
but it is things like these which aren't really mentioned in the brochure, or aren't something
No,
that you can actually state anywhere. But that kind of personal connection is just something you cannot, evaluate. Or it was so, and it is so important. uh, and that was one of the crucial things, and I'm always grateful to you for that, for
oh,
sure.
well, thank you. I do take it personally because it's hard. It's hard to get through school, and it takes a big chunk of your time in your life. And for international students, oh my gosh, you're totally uplifting your life, for God's sakes. It's like you're not only all in on the program, you're all in on life when you're here. And so, yes, I have made an extra effort all the time for international students. I'm pleased to say that in the in-person, we almost have 100% placement with international students.
Right.
That we I personally, I really try, and I do it for a reason, because I'm like
Yeah,
you. You see good people, you want to help good people, and you were a very good person, and I love seeing your success.
I completely agree that the reason I got into Esri is because of you recommending me, motivating me to go to the student assistantship program at User Conference by Esri in San Diego. And no doubt, I am where I am thanks to you right now in US, for sure.
Well, it was great chatting with you, Smaran, and
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I completely always happy to be part of your program.